Have you ever stopped to think about how quickly technology transforms our world?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah, one moment something seems utterly futuristic, the next it's just, well, it's how we live.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what the tech gurus of the past imagined for our future?
Mm-hmm.
So today we're going on a bit of a time-traveling deep dive. We're peering into the minds of forecasters from the late 1970s
Way back.
to see how their vision of the 1980s stacked up against, our actual digital landscape.
It's a great comparison.
Our quest really is to dig into what those tech prophets got right, what they
Hmm.
completely overlooked, maybe.
Or couldn't even conceive of.
Right. And how their sort of embryonic ideas exploded into the hyper-connected world we live in now.
Yeah.
We'll be drawing mainly from an in-depth RAND Corporation paper from 1978 called Telecommunications Technology in the 1980s,
A classic.
and contrasting it with the more recent 2019 report, The Digital Revolution and Its Impact on Society. Okay, let's unpack this.
What instantly grabs you, I think, is how yesterday's bleeding-edge lab experiments are simply the bedrock of our current tech.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fundamental now.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that while the gadgets change, the core patterns of how technology spreads often don't.
Mm.
It's a remarkably long game, this innovation stuff.
And that sets up a fascinating tension, doesn't it? So let's set the scene. Back in 1978,
Okay.
the authors of that RAND paper were surprisingly humble. They admitted that any attempt to predict the technology of 1990 is doomed to failure because of the sheer pace of change.
Which is pretty self-aware for forecasters.
It really is. They observed that at the time, new tech primarily just improved existing services.
Right.
Think about making long-distance calls cheaper, for example.
Better, faster, cheaper versions of what you already had.
Exactly. Satellite TV was maybe a rare exception, creating something genuinely new.
That's a crucial observation they made. They noted this incremental nature of progress,
Mm-hmm.
often invisible to those outside the field, as they put it. But they wisely pointed out those cumulative improvements could eventually appear, well, revolutionary over time.
Like compounding interest for tech.
Pretty much. And a key factor they highlighted was the slow diffusion of new technologies. It often took 20 years or more from commercial introduction to mature saturation.
Wow, 20 years.
Yeah, especially in highly regulated industries like telecommunications back then.
20 years to reach mature saturation? Can you imagine that today? I mean, a new app can go viral in, what, weeks?
It's a completely different timescale now. It really underscores how different the tech adoption landscape was.
But even with that slower pace, they saw some huge shifts coming. They were already using phrases like the microprocessor revolution, intelligent terminals, and teleprocessing networks as familiar cliches even then.
Yeah, those terms were buzzing.
They pinpointed the convergence of computing and communications as the most profound change coming for the 1980s. This was the whole computer on a chip era just starting.
Indeed. And they chronicled this rapid increase in component density. In '72, a chip held about 5,000 components.
Okay.
By 1978, just 6 years later, that jumped to 18,000 components on a chip roughly 0.2 inches square.
Tiny.
What's truly mind-blowing isn't just the number, but that this miniaturization meant computing power, once stuck in these massive, expensive mainframes,
Room-size things.
could now fit into a space smaller than your thumbnail and become incredibly cheap.
Right.
This was basically the seed for everything: personal computers, embedded devices, eventually a smartphone in your pocket.
The scale of that projected growth is just astonishing, especially from the late 70s perspective. Their forecast for the early 80s was commercial logic devices with 60,000 components per chip,
50,000.
executing 4 million instructions per second, which they noted was like 100 times faster than small computers from the early 60s.
A huge leap.
And the cost predictions were equally wild. They foresaw these powerful chips dropping below $100, maybe even as low as $1 to $5 for smaller ones.
Incredible foresight on the cost curve.
They even observed that computer logic hardware is essentially free, and that software costs would dominate.
And they were absolutely right about that hardware's free idea was truly prescient.
And the applications they listed, it was surprisingly broad. Scales, cash registers, machine tools, instruments, calculators, sure.
The obvious stuff.
But also home television games, automobiles, ovens, washing machines, dishwashers, and even the telephone itself.
So basically, almost everything that plugs in or has a battery, they saw it coming.
Okay, so they had the chips, the raw brain power. But how would people actually interact with these intelligent machines? What did they foresee for input and output? Let's start with memory.
Good place to start. They discussed two types: Primary, for the processor's immediate instructions and data,
Right.
and secondary, or mass storage, for larger amounts of information.
Like a hard drive versus RAM, basically.
Pretty much.
Yes.
For primary storage, they talk about 16K memory chips, costing $20, $30 at the time, which could store about a double-spaced typewritten page.
Okay, not much by today's standards.
Not at all. But they predicted this cost would plummet down to maybe 30 cents per thousand bits or less in the early 80s,
Wow.
and less than 10 cents per thousand bits by the end of the decade. That clearly signaled storage becoming incredibly cheap and abundant.
Which it did?
And for secondary storage, you had magnetic disk memories, used for things like airline reservations back then, storing over 1 billion bits at about 4 cents per thousand bits.
Getting cheaper.
Yeah, magnetic tape was even cheaper, but, slower access. They also saw emerging stuff like magnetic bubbles, which could hold data without power and charge-coupled devices as potential competitors to the spinning magnetic disks.
Always looking for the next big thing in storage.
Always more data, faster, for less money. That's been the mantra.
Then there's input and output. Input first. Typewriter keyboards were the standard, right? And they didn't actually think their $50 cost would decrease much.
Interesting, they thought that would hold steady.
Yeah, but they were already exploring touch-sensitive screens, pointers, light pens.
Early touch interfaces.
And what they called the most important technical breakthrough to come was an inexpensive, reliable voice recognition device.
The dream of talking to your computer.
They even anticipated a voice writer basically getting a rough draft from dictation by 1990. They really saw the value in, more natural human interaction.
Definitely. On the output side, voice response was seen as the cheapest, easiest way for simple messages to lots of people. Using the phone, think stock quotes or credit checks.
Makes sense.
For soft copy output screens, LEDs and liquid crystals were already in calculators. CRTs, those big tube monitors, were standard for computers.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. Heavy.
Weren't they just? But they predicted a major shift. Flat, solid-state panels replacing CRTs, offering better image quality, larger screens.
They nailed that one.
They really did. They even named contenders like plasma, LED arrays, liquid crystals, basically foreshadowing our modern flat-screen TVs and phone displays.
What about getting stuff on paper? Hard copy.
They expected impact printers, the noisy dot matrix kind, to dominate. But they saw promise in non-impact tech, like inkjets, xerographic, like copiers, and thermal printers.
Okay.
Though they noted these often needed special paper or had lower quality. Interestingly, they were less optimistic about printer costs coming down compared to displays or memory.
Which feels pretty accurate considering how much printer ink still costs us today.
Doesn't it just? It really shows how some areas were easier to predict than others.
Okay, moving beyond just the components. How did they see computers influencing the actual telecom systems, the networks?
Right. A key concept was the substitution of information processing for transmission,
Yeah.
making the network itself smarter.
How so?
They cited take-aside time-assigned speech interpolation used on undersea cables. Imagine a phone call, you naturally pause sometimes, right?
Here.
Take-aside was like this clever system that noticed those silences and quickly slipped in tiny bits of other conversations during your pauses. Then it seamlessly put everything back together at the other end. It was all about maximizing the use of those expensive international lines, making the pipe smarter without needing a bigger pipe, essentially.
Clever. And another foundational concept they talked about was packet switching.
Absolutely crucial. Dividing information into these little packets at the terminal, then letting computers route them individually through the network.
Like sending mail in lots of small envelopes instead of one big package.
Exactly. This made data applications much, much cheaper than traditional circuit switching, where you tied up a whole line for the duration.
And this tied into the shift toward digital communication overall, didn't it?
It did. The trend was clear because computers obviously work with digital bits, and that LSI technology, the chip tech, was making analog to digital conversion cheaper and cheaper.
But they didn't expect an overnight switch.
No, they predicted the U.S. switch telephone network would remain a mixture of analog and digital facilities throughout the 1980s, a gradual transition, and that digital conversion meant something else profound. You could mix voice, data, messages, images all together on the same digital streams.
All just ones and zeros.
Exactly, which offered greater privacy, security, economic advantages, even if it made the old regulatory distinctions kind of fuzzy.
That blending of communication forms is totally fundamental to our world today. They really saw that coming.
They definitely grasped the potential.
Let's talk about the Office of the Future, as they saw in '78. Microprocessors were expected to just be routinely built into everything. Office typewriters, copiers, fax machines, data terminals.
Smartening up the office equipment.
The word processor, they believed, was absolutely key to this future office, replacing paper handling, cutting distribution time from hours or days down to seconds or minutes.
A massive efficiency gain.
They even estimated that over 50% of all office documents will be prepared with word processors by 1985. That's a pretty bold and, well, accurate prediction.
It really was. They also saw intelligent copiers, coming ones that can make copies from digital data, maybe have scanners built in, even recognize characters.
OCR, basically.
Yep. And computer-based PBX, the office phone systems,
Right.
were expected to mix voice, data, text messages on the same lines, offering features like call forwarding, conference calling, stuff we take for granted now.
Right.
They saw the office becoming this unified digital hub.
What's truly fascinating is they mentioned computer mail on networks like ARPANET and Telenet was already a significant use.
And back then.
They cited an academic colleague who sent a paper across continents in less than 48 hours in 1977. Now, 48 hours sounds glacial to us.
Yeah.
But what was it about that early computer mail that they saw as so revolutionary?
Well, the revolution wasn't really speed, which, yeah, was terrible by our standards. It was asynchronicity and reach.
Meaning
Meaning you didn't need two people to be on the phone at the same time or have working fax machines on both ends. You could send a message to someone halfway across the world.
Right.
And they'd get it whenever they logged on. It fundamentally changed how global collaboration could happen. It was the absolute groundwork for email as we know it.
That makes sense. It decoupled the communication in time.
Precisely. They even projected the cost for electronic messages to drop significantly from about $1.20 for 50 words in 75 down to maybe 52 cents by 85, showing that focus on affordability driving adoption.
Okay, moving from the office to the home. Home communications terminals. They saw those as more challenging to predict.
Yeah, cost and actual consumer demand were big question marks.
The ultimate home terminal they imagined had a full keyboard, hard copy and graphic display, storage, sending, receiving messages.
Sound like a PC.
Yeah, costing a couple $100 and get this, lasting forever.
Lasting forever. That's brilliant. Easy to laugh now with our yearly phone upgrades.
Right. What core assumption do you think they missed there? About tech or maybe just us?
I think they just underestimated the sheer acceleration of innovation and maybe our insatiable desire for the next new thing. They probably saw it like a durable appliance, a fridge or something, not this constantly evolving device.
That makes sense. They did, however, see 6 generic devices evolving. The phone, the TV, typewriters, pay TV boxes, VCRs, and those early calculator TV game home computer things.
Kind of converging.
And they predicted an intelligent telephone for under $200 by the early 80s, offering conference calls, access to information, transaction services like credit card and banking.
That sounds eerily like a proto-smartphone, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. They also looked at TVs for data processing, add an LSI chip, some memory, a character generator for about $200 expected to drop below $20 later, and your TV could display information. They cited TV captions for the deaf as an example.
Using the screen you already had, smart.
They kind of wrestled with the idea of a single integrated mother box, multiple output telecommunications, home-end resources.
Catchy name.
Versus just adding components piece by piece. They thought the latter was more practical, figuring households wouldn't shell out over $1,000 for a big unit, mainly for non-entertainment stuff.
Highlighting that economic barrier for complex home tech back then, cost was everything.
Okay, that brings us to the backbone. Transmission and switching. Satellites. They predicted major advances there.
Yep. More accurate control, more power, spot beams to reuse frequencies, more digital transmission.
They mentioned SBS satellite business systems launching in 1980 using higher frequencies with rooftop Earth stations.
Aimed at businesses, yeah.
Yeah.
Direct satellite broadcasting to homes, DBS, was technically feasible, but already seen as politically tricky, both in the U.S. and internationally.
And then the big one, optical fiber.
Oh, yeah. Spectacular advances, they called it, making fiber attractive for local and long-distance video, voice, data.
Everything. Explain why fiber was such a leap over copper wires.
Okay, so copper sends electrical signals, right? Fiber optics transmit data as pulses of light through these incredibly thin strands of glass.
Light speed data.
Pretty much. It meant vastly higher bandwidth than going from a garden hose to a fire hose for data. Incredibly low signal loss over long distances, so fewer boosters needed. and it's immune to electrical interference.
Huge advantages.
Massive. They expected costs to drop fast from $1 per meter down to maybe 10 cents per meter by 1980, making it cheaper than special video cables and competitive with copper for those T1 digital trunks.
So it's becoming economically viable, too.
Exactly. They thought long-distance optical fiber systems could be competitive by 85, though maybe the demand wouldn't quite justify Bell building them out that fast. It was a fundamental shift paving the way for, well, our modern internet speeds.
This trend towards digital transmission was just undeniable then. What were the practical advantages pushing it?
Fundamentally, digital just meant efficiency and quality. You could integrate voice, data, video seamlessly together, unlike analog where signals degrade over distance.
Right, like a fuzzy radio station.
Yeah, exactly. Digital signals could be perfectly regenerated.
Right.
Plus, much better error control and security. Think crisp, clean packets versus a blurry, fading signal.
So most new systems were going digital.
Yep. Most new guided wave systems, wire carrier, coaxial, optical, were moving that way because of the benefits. Packet networks were already commercial in about 80 cities for data.
Okay.
And the big phone companies like AT&T were expected to offer their own digital services, like Bell's transaction network service.
And finally, switching, getting the data where it needs to go.
Right. Computer-controlled electronic switching, like Bell's #1 ESS, was the major innovation. Faster, cheaper, more adaptable switching.
Smarter exchanges.
And digital switching was the next step, integrating computer tech even more fully. It identified and sorted beta pulses rather than physically opening and closing circuits. By 1990, Bell planned to route over 75% of toll calls through digital switches.
It truly paints a picture of a world right on the cusp of a massive digital revolution.
It really does. And what's striking is how well they identified the core building blocks, the microprocessors, the digital transmission, the software that would enable it all.
Okay, we've painted a pretty detailed picture of that 1980s vision. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Now let's hit the fast forward button, like 4 decades forward. How did these audacious predictions, these early seeds of the digital age, actually sprout into the incredibly complex, interconnected reality we have today?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, like that 2019 report does, many of those building blocks they identified, microprocessors, digital transmission, they are precisely what underpin the radical transformations we see now.
Absolutely.
From how we communicate, how we collaborate, even how we manage our cities. The 2019 report really lays out how digitalization brought these massive disruptive changes.
The disruption is just undeniable. Think about communication alone. We went from buzzers, telex, fax, typewriters, snail mail,
Ancient history.
to live chats, emails, SMS, video calls, social media, practically overnight, it feels like. It's a truly seismic shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
And collaboration. It's all cloud-based tools now. Task sharing, project management, real-time editing. You don't need to be in the same room, same city, same country even.
That fundamentally changes how businesses operate, a kind of flexibility the 78 paper could only hint at with that early computer mail.
Exactly. And in content creation, publicity. The reliance on traditional TV and newspapers, it's lessened considerably.
For sure.
It's websites, blogs, video streaming now is the primary ways to reach people, target customers. It's not just a tech shift. It's this massive democratization of information. Anyone can be a publisher or broadcaster now, potentially.
Okay, so what are the core technologies and enablers behind all this today? The 2019 report reinforces that the transistor, memory, integrated circuits, what they called microprocessors back then, are still the cornerstones.
The foundation, yep. They also introduce MEMS, microelectromechanical systems, as newer enablers. These allow for things like tiny sensors, actuators on a chip. Think accelerometers in your phone.
Got it.
Beyond those foundational bits, big data and analytics are absolutely crucial now. Explain that a bit. It's basically the process of examining these enormous, really varied data sets we now generate.
From everything we do online.
Pretty much. To uncover hidden patterns, correlations, market trends, customer preferences, things you just couldn't see before. It's about extracting immense value from the sheer volume of digital information.
And then there's blockchain, which is more than just Bitcoin, right?
Oh, much more. It's not just recording transactions. It's about fundamentally decentralizing trust. You don't necessarily need a central bank or authority to verify every step.
How does that work, simply?
Well, it's basically a shared immutable ledger. A transaction is requested, bundled into a block, sent out to nodes on the network. They validate it, add the block to the chain, and the transaction is complete and verified by consensus.
So it has implications way beyond finance.
Huge implications.
Yeah.
For supply chains, voting, records management. anywhere intermediaries currently manage trust. It makes processes potentially more transparent and secure in ways that were just, well, alien in the era of paper ledgers.
Okay. Also critical now, AR and VR, augmented and virtual reality.
Right. AR overlays digital information onto the real world. Think Pokemon Go or heads-up displays, or using your phone to see how furniture looks in your room. Used in advertising, marketing, reporting.
And VR.
VR creates fully immersive digital environments. It's a tool for professionals for things like 3D simulations, training, virtual tours of buildings or shopping centers, even real-time stock market simulations with dynamic graphs.
Stuff that was pure science fiction just a few decades ago.
Absolutely.
Let's get into some real-world applications of this digital revolution, starting close to home, smart homes.
Yeah, while the 78 paper couldn't really conceive of a smart fridge talking to the internet,
Oh.
their prediction of microprocessors and household appliances absolutely laid the groundwork. Now our homes are becoming these interconnected, sometimes self-managing ecosystems.
We're talking photovoltaic panels on the roof, energy-efficient smart lighting, smart thermostats, fridges that track inventory, washing machines you control from your phone.
Anti-theft systems connected to your phone, maybe even AR/VR for checking wall integrity or planning renovations. It brings incredible convenience.
But also new questions, right? Around data privacy, security.
Definitely big considerations.
Okay, smart driving, another huge area.
Yeah, vehicles are becoming safer, more efficient, and greener, as the report puts it. Anti-collision sensors, GPS routing that optimizes for traffic and fuel,
Active safety systems that intervene.
smart traffic lights that coordinate restricted city access based on vehicle type. What's striking is how those early microprocessor forecasts for cars, which seemed kind of advanced then,
Right, just controlling the engine, maybe.
they really did lay the groundwork for these incredibly complex AI-driven systems now that are fundamentally reshaping urban planning, insurance, liability, everything. And of course, the big push towards battery-powered, electric-assisted, and eventually fully autonomous driving.
Even garbage collection is getting smart. Seriously.
Apparently so. Connected containers that tell the city when they're full, so fleets can be managed efficiently, routes optimized, collection only happens when needed.
Avoids overflowing bins. Makes sense.
The report even mentions domestic robots for sorting garbage within the home eventually.
Okay, that definitely wasn't in the 1978 paper.
I guarantee it wasn't. Public spaces to museums, theaters, malls are being enhanced. Smart glasses or phones giving personalized info, location-based content.
Virtual or augmented reality, letting you maybe relive historic events in a museum or see a 3D musical score at a concert.
Exactly. It's about adding digital layers to physical experiences.
Smart banking, that's changed massively.
Hugely. The lines are blurring between big traditional banks and these nimble fintech startups, leading to totally new roles, like data scientists becoming essential in banking.
We've shifted from human operators, maybe, to chatbot virtual assistants for many queries.
Card-driven ATMs evolving into intelligent kiosks that do more. Multi-factor authentication, face, voice, fingerprint becoming standard.
And robot trading driven by AI is just the norm in financial markets now.
It's a fundamental reimagining of how we interact with money and financial institutions.
The smart office, too. It's not just word processors anymore.
No, it's transforming into this new working space with flexibility and fast connection. Think multi-factor employee recognition to get in the door, wireless chargers everywhere, microprojectors for presentations.
Smart agendas that maybe analyze your past work patterns and suggest daily priorities.
Yeah, using AI to optimize workflow. It's about creating an environment that adapts more to the worker, rather than the other way around.
Even agriculture. Getting smart.
Definitely. Smart sensors out in the fields monitoring everything: weather, soil conditions, crop health, tracking pressure, temperature, humidity, UV, CO2, light levels.
Wow.
Using anti-counterfeiting RFID labels on produce to track it through the supply chain. Drones for environmental monitoring, precision watering to save resources.
Transparent photovoltaic panels may be integrated into greenhouse roofs to generate power.
Right. All aimed at optimizing yields, using resources more efficiently, increasing transparency. It's precision agriculture.
And healthcare, another area with huge digital impact.
Massive potential here. Reducing hospitalization costs through remote patient monitoring is a big one. Sensors tracking blood pressure, heartbeat, ECG, eye pressure, sending data to doctors remotely.
So fewer hospital visits, quicker interventions maybe?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Movement reconstruction using sensors for physical therapy, rehabilitation, fitness tracking. And patient treatment evolving with devices like connected insulin nanopumps that automate delivery.
It's about bringing healthcare closer to the patient, making it more continuous, more proactive rather than reactive.
That's the goal.
So, looking even further ahead, what are the next big challenges, the next breakthroughs on the horizon, according to that 2019 report?
Well, it points towards advanced robotics and bionics.
Okay, explain bionics.
We're talking about integrating bioelectronics with biology. Maybe interfaces to increase human brain processing or memory. Developing a bionic nose that could perhaps code and send smell signals directly to the brain.
Wow.
Nanorobots designed for microsurgeries inside the human body. Bionic hands that could mimic the complexity and function of human organs. It's really blurring the lines.
Truly sci-fi territory.
And the ultimate evolution, as the report calls it, quantum computing.
The big one.
This promises just a dramatic leap forward in speed, processing power, performance, shifting from our current binary computers, ones and zeros, to quantum bit or qubit computers.
Based on quantum physics principles like superposition.
Exactly. Allowing them to explore many possibilities simultaneously, complemented by AI algorithms, neural networks. They could potentially solve problems completely intractable for today's supercomputers. Drug discovery, material science, complex simulations.
Okay, so stepping back from all that, what does this all mean? We've journeyed from 1978 predictions to today's reality and looked even further ahead. We've seen how those experts back in the 70s, well, they accurately foresaw the rise of microprocessors, the digital shift, even aspects of home and office automation. Pretty impressive.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yet the sheer scale and the interwoven nature of today's digital revolution, powered by things like cloud computing, AI, blockchain, the beginnings of quantum, that scale would likely have just, well, boggled their minds.
You think?
I think the interconnectedness, the speed, the societal impact, it's beyond what they could probably imagine, even predicting the building blocks correctly.
It's a real testament to that idea of incremental innovation eventually appearing revolutionary over time, isn't it?
Absolutely. And how society's needs, consumer demand, business needs ultimately drive the adoption of even really complex technologies.
Which raises an important question for you, our listener. Given the incredible pace of change we've unpacked today, what seemingly futuristic technology, maybe from science fiction, do you think will become an undeniable reality in your lifetime?
That's a great question to ponder.
Because at the end of the day, intelligence and creativity, they're the starting point for innovation, right?
Always.
But as this whole digital revolution has so powerfully shown us, speed and execution, they're the crucial factors that actually make it happen.